It is starting to we're getting set up.
Okay.
Oh man, okay. I think we are live
Okay.
right now. Let me go look at yes, we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. So why don't we go ahead and get started? All right. Hey everyone, my name is Bernice Jenkins and I am the Financial Literacy Director for the Southern region of the Association of Black Accountants, which we affectionately call NABA. And we are kicking off our financial literacy series. And I'm really excited about this series. The goal of this series is really to address our persistent racial wealth gap that we consistently see in this country for African American households as well as underserved communities. There are some astounding statistics out there that says that as far back as 70 to 100 years, as far as gaining wealth, African American households have not been gaining as much wealth as you would expect, considering that on an ongoing basis, we've been having a lot of opportunities in the future. I mean, going forward in the future. So we want to address that. And we have Brandon Hunter here from Northwestern Mutual. He actually is a comprehensive financial planner. So he deals with these numbers every day and guiding people for their net wealth and their financial development. And so I am going to let Brandon kind of talk about the building blocks. Where should we be putting our money so that we are establishing enough wealth for financial security and having enough wealth to transfer throughout our generation as well. So Brandon has a presentation that he wants to share. And so I'm going to pull that up now. Brandon, if you don't mind just giving us a, just an introduction of yourself, and then I will pull in your slides that you wanted to share.
Sure thing. So, welcome everyone. My name is Brandon Hunter. I am the NABA Greensboro chapter president. I'm a financial advisor, and I use Northwestern Mutual as the company that I represent. I've been with them since September of 2013, so got a little bit of time in the seat. But this is my passion, and so I'm extremely grateful to be able to get more of this information out to the community, because just as Bernice said, like, this is critical for our community if we are truly expecting to break the generational curses and build generational wealth. All right. So looks like the slides are all loaded up and ready to go. So I'll start. So this is a piece that I like to take people through, and I really enjoy it because it's simple, it's clean, and it really paints the picture for you. And what I mean about painting the picture when it comes to financial planning is really you always start with the foundation. So very similar to building a home, right? You don't start with the roof, you start with the foundation. And so, like, what does that entail? What does that mean? Whenever somebody's talking about, hey, let's build, the foundation to your financial plan. So what we're really talking about is making sure that we develop healthy habits, okay? And along with those healthy habits, making sure that we've provided ourselves the basic protections that we need. So the way I like to put it is you're protecting yourself from the things that life is randomly going to throw at you. Okay. So let's start on this page where it says first up, and it says establishing a foundation. So you see the first thing it lists out is establishing a budget. Your budget is essentially like your roadmap. I say that because, you know, a lot of people kind of view the budget as a negative. The budget as this tells me how much money I have, right? And the way that I see it and the way that I always typically tell my clients to look at it is what it really is. The budget is, it really just tells you your financial capacity. It really just says, this is how much money I bring in income each month. And this is the amount of money that I spend. And then that difference between those two numbers is the amount of free cash flow. So the cash flow that's not being used for anything. Okay. So whenever I tell people to go through a budget with me, I am looking for all of the dollars. So we're talking through everything. You know, we're talking for housing needs. We're talking about, you know, car insurance, car payment, credit card payments. We're talking about obviously utilities. We're talking about, you know, what's your phone bill. We're talking about eating out, right? And we're getting very granular on those numbers. We're talking about groceries. We're talking about, you know, personal care. So if you go to the gym, you go to the salon, you get your hair done, like whatever it is, we're trying to capture all of those dollars so that we have a clear picture, right? Because remember, if the budget is the roadmap, well, if I got a faulty roadmap that's not going to tell me when I turn left, there's a cliff there, I'm going over the cliff. And that's not a good thing, right? So we should always start with the budget. Next, we look at the emergency fund. So your emergency fund, and everybody's going to kind of call that a different name. I've heard emergency fund. I've heard rainy day fund. I've heard, I'm from the country, so shoebox money. Um, but the way that I like to break it down when I think about your emergency fund or your savings, it's just very simply, this is the money that I'm eventually going to spend. I just don't know how I'm going to spend it. So going back to that whole theme of life happening to you, right? You know, things happen randomly. And it's one of those things where, you know, you get to a certain age, basically like you get to like college age, and you kind of realize that like life just happens to people. And from a financial planning perspective, you want to make sure that you have funds available for when that happens. Now, what is that dollar amount? So for me personally, I'm always trying to get people to target like I call it like a soft landing. Okay. So I want people to have anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 in savings. The reason being is because with those numbers that range in between $5,000 to $10,000, number one, it's an achievable goal because it takes a good amount of time to build up enough cash flow to have five, you know, 7,500, $10,000 in savings. While at the same time, if something were to happen to you, when you really think about it and wrap your head around it, there's not really many things that could happen where you would need, you know, $5,000 or more lump sum right there on the spot, right? Um, you know, like the overwhelming majority of things that happen in our life, if there's some sort of payment that's needed, you'd be put on a payment plan. Okay. So that's another reason. And then lastly, you know, the reason why I cap it at 10,000 is because if the game plan is to save more money than $10,000, well, we want to think about efficiency, right? So where does it make the most sense to save money? And so the money that's in your savings account needs to be your accessible cash that you need quick, fast, and in a hurry. Once we get above $10,000, now we can transition that money into other areas and other avenues that are going to be able to generate more interest for us. Okay. Oh, so moving along to the next one, disability income insurance coverage. I like to call it disability protection. And I will tell you right now, of all the things up here in gold in the establish a foundation list, this is the most critically important one for me personally. It is the one that I make sure all of my clients that we have some form of disability protection. The reason being is because number one, when you think about your working years, right? So typically your working years, we're talking like 20 years old all the way up to, let's just call it 70, right? So you've got basically a 50-year window of working years of like your strongest income generating years. That's probably the best way to put it. What does that mean to me as an advisor? Well, it means that's a lot of money that a person can generate over a 50-year time span. Okay. Like to kind of put things in perspective, you know, if just put in on your phone, just put in numbers, right? Just put in, say, we're not even talking about like a huge salary. Just take $60,000, multiply that, and let's say that we multiply it by 30 years, right? See what number you get. That's how I think as a financial advisor, hey, that's a lot of income potential. All right. That's a lot of money right there that's going to be passing through your hands. Well, if we know that you've got, 30 years of making $60,000, well, what do we want to do, right? Well, number one, we know you got to spend the money. We know you got to save some of the money. We know you got to grow some of the money. Okay. But what's probably the main thing we want to do? We want to make sure you get the money, right? Disability protection comes into play when something happens to you, regardless of whether we're talking a physical injury, whether we're talking about some sort of like mental incapacity or mental disorder that would happen to you that would keep you out of work, or we're talking about a sickness. Any of those three things that would keep you out of work long term, right? That's where the disability comes into play, because what it does is it's going to reproduce most of your pay. Okay. And so that's why it's critically important. Another thing I like to throw in there, just kind of painting the picture. As an advisor, I really only have two jobs. Okay. Number one, make you money. Number two, protect your money. That's really it when you kind of boil everything down to its simplest elements, right? Obviously, like, how do I make you money? I invest your money, right? That's just what it is. I invest your money. That's how I grow your money. Well, how do I protect your money? Disability is really the only arrow in my quiver that I have available in order to help protect your income. So that's why it's just critically important. Okay. Going on to the next one. So maximizing employer contributions for retirement plans. This one's a big one. I say that because, look, I tell everybody without any hesitation, I am good at what I do. I study and I train hard at my craft because I want to be great at what I do. But let me tell you one thing that no advisor can do. No advisor can replicate or beat free money. What I mean by that is this. What this is referring to is like a 401k, 403bs, things of that nature. If you're with an employer that offers a retirement plan and they offer a match, put in whatever percentage that you need to put in order to get the maximum match. What I mean by that, let's say, for example, that your employer says, we will match you dollar for dollar up to 100% of your contribution. All right. And so let's say that the contribution that you put in is 5%. They'll say, hey, we will match you dollar for dollar. So they'll match you 100% of what you put in up to whatever specified limit they have. And let's say their limit is 5%. So that means if you put in 5%, they're going to match you at 5%. Okay. That 5% that they're giving you is free money. Take the free money. It's monopoly. Pass go, please collect $200. All right. The next one, life insurance coverage. Life insurance is important for a multitude of reasons. And there's multiple types. Okay. I won't dig too deep into the different types at the moment, just because at the same time we're trying to be mindful of time. But when we're thinking about life insurance, there's two main types. So you have term insurance. Term literally is temporary. Okay. So imagine for a moment if you had like an apartment, right? Your lease just dictates the time that you have a roof over your head. After that lease is up, you got to go, right? So same exact thing with term insurance, where with term insurance, you have life insurance for a specified amount of time, whether that's a 10-year term, a 20-year term, a 30-year term, or you have a life insurance policy, a term policy that will go up to a certain age. So it'll go up until, say, age 80. Okay. Um, so that's term insurance. It's very black and white. You see it advertised all the time where it'll be like, hey, Daryl has a family of 5. He's 50 years old, and for $75 a month, he can get $500,000 of coverage. Okay. That's term insurance right there. So the way that it works is just very simple. If Daryl would pass away before the term ends, his family gets the proceeds of $500,000. If he outlives that amount, his family gets nothing. Okay. On the flip side, you have what's called whole life insurance. Okay. Some people call it permanent life insurance as well. So whole life insurance or permanent insurance, so it lasts with you as long as you live. It's very simple, very similar to, I'd say, how like a mortgage works. And what I mean by that is, you buy a home, you're paying your mortgage every year, and a couple of things are happening. Number one, obviously, you're building cash equity inside of your home, right? So you're building a leveraging tool that you can access, while at the same time, well, your mortgage may be like a 30-year mortgage. After the 30 years is up, you don't lose your home. You keep your home. You're just done making payments. Well, with whole life insurance, it's the exact same premise. The entire time that you're paying your yearly premiums, you're building up cash value that you can exercise and have access to while you're alive, right? And at the same time, you have a permanent death benefit, meaning like this, again, this stays with you until you die. There is no sort of like time frame on it. Okay. And on top of that, you can customize the policy to like kind of dictate how long you're going to pay into the policy. Okay. So moving on to the next one, insurance for large purchases like your car, your house, your apartment. So now we're talking about property and casualty insurance, right? And so again, we're thinking about what happens when life happens to us, right? So what happens when you get into a car accident, right? I don't think that the overwhelming majority of people, I don't think they wake up and just say, you know what, today feels like the day I'm going to get in a car accident. I don't think that happens, right? That's why you get insurance. You want to make sure when things happen, you're protected. The same exact things when we're talking about renting an apartment. I know a lot of people kind of think, well, if I don't own the apartment, if something happens, I'm not liable for it, or, it doesn't really matter to me. Well, I mean, if you have things in your apartment, those things matter to you, right? And so you want to make sure you insure those things. The same exact thing with your house. You want to make sure you have homeowners insurance. Again, we're just protecting your assets here. Okay. So moving on to health insurance coverage. Health insurance coverage is incredibly impactful. Obviously, it's mandated now that we all should have health insurance coverage. But the thing that I like to kind of lock in on with the health insurance conversation is there's different types, right? And so the way that I like to put it is, if you're someone who goes to the doctor a lot, you probably want to go with the more like standardized popular plan. If you're someone who gets a checkup every year, everything's pretty good. Doctors say, hey, you're doing great. All your readings look really good. You don't really get sick or have any sort of like ailments or anything like that, then maybe look at a high deductible plan. The reason why I would recommend that is because of the fact that number one, it's going to be a little bit cheaper than like the standardized plan. So it's going to save you some money on the premiums. But you also have access to opening up a health savings account. And what you're able to do is take money, put that inside of a health savings account. It's a savings account specifically designed for the purposes of healthcare. Okay. Excuse me. And it builds. So it's not a situation where, oh, I start a health savings account and then I have to use it by the end of the year. So it rolls over if you don't use everything that's in there. It just keeps rolling over and keeps building. So it's a nice little vehicle that you can use to put money away for when, again, something happens where it's like, now all of a sudden I have this health bill. Oh, well, look, I got my health savings account. Last but not least, debt management strategy. So the debt management strategy is incredibly important because the way that I like to paint the picture, right? Money is either actively working for you or actively working against you. So debt management is important because now we're thinking about the cost of money. That's interest, right? So now we're talking about, hey, does it make sense to refinance things? Whether we're talking about a car, so like if you've got like say you got a car and you got an interest rate that's above 6%, right? Above 6% interest rate on a car, that would be a situation where there's a conversation about, hey, does it make sense to refinance? Can we get some relief on that interest rate? Meaning, can we get a lower interest rate, right? A lot of times when you're refinancing as well, you'll be able to get a lower monthly payment. So what does that do? It puts more money back in your pocket for you to do other things, right? This is how you have your cake and eat it too, all right? The same exact thing if we're talking about, a home, refinancing your home right now, like rates are really low. So, people who bought their homes, 10, 15 years ago, there's an opportunity to see, does it make sense to refinance, right? The same exact thing we're talking about like credit cards, right? We talk about positioning credit cards. So where should I get my credit cards from? All these things matter because we're talking about how do we handle debt, okay? And then what is the plan, right? So for certain debts, we might say, oh, well, this debt is a 10-year debt, but I don't want to pay for 10 years. I'd rather have it paid off in, 7 years, right? How do we do that? What does that look like? How much money would I need to put towards that debt to make that happen? All these things play into a debt management strategy. And just to kind of wrap things up on that, people kind of take financial planning and they take debt and they separate them. But in all actuality, they're all the same thing. So like financial planning is inclusive of debt management, right? Debt is a part of your financial plan. It's not separate, okay? So I always like to just throw that out there to people because that's something that I routinely hear. And I just always try to make sure I get everybody on the same page. So Bernice, I'll stop there since you just wanted me to cover those foundational items. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, so Brandon, thank you for giving us that overview. And I would like to just summarize it and you tell me if I have captured what you are basically telling us. But I think that most of the community understands that they need to create a budget and that they should have some level of savings. But what you're showing us is that there's a much more comprehensive approach. And if your financial management plan is just to have a budget so that you can save a little bit on the side, you are missing a great wealth building opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so the name of the game is really building your assets, which is your cash value, your IRAs, your retirement accounts, mm-hmm. Also investing in real estate, whatever that will help you gain some wealth. Focus your time and your attention on that. And then it sounds like the next strategy, which is just as important, is protecting your assets as well. Because if you're if you're investing in real estate, but you aren't really up on your health insurance, one bad diagnosis, one bad medical bill can really wipe you out. And it's the same for disability. If you're planning to use your income and you're heavily reliant on your income for wealth building and you become disabled and you're not able to work, disability insurance is what's going to help you. Or if you are married and you and your spouse are working together and both of you are depending on both of your incomes and you're doing a great job managing and trying to asset build, still life insurance is the tool to help protect wealth. So it's not enough to try to have a wealth building strategy. Protecting your wealth is also just as much of an equal strategy. Just summarizing what I think that you have explained to us as far as what that foundational experience looks like. And I do understand that you'll come back and talk to us in more detail about each one of those steps. And so you'll give us a little bit more on what that looks like at different stages of our lives. So, you know, younger people need to manage their money a certain way because they have different priorities versus someone that's entering closer to retirement age or that's already retirement. They have different financial needs. So you'll walk us through that life stage. So I thank you, though. I think this was a great overview. I think I'm really excited about your partnership and everything that you're doing to help us bridge the wealth gap. Do you have any final words before we close out?
Yes, just two quick things. So number one, I always try to get people to understand with financial planning, it's a journey, not a destination. I say that because you can start the financial planning conversation at whatever age. You will continue having financial planning conversations until the day you leave this planet. That's just the simple fact of the matter.
Right.
And then lastly, you know, I get this question a lot. People always say, well, do I need financial planning? Right. I am a firm believer that everybody needs financial planning. I don't care if I'm talking to Jeff Bezos or if I'm talking to, you know, somebody fresh out of college.
Right.
Everybody needs financial planning. Everybody needs a financial planner and everybody needs a financial plan.
Very good. Well, thank you again for your time. And I think that will conclude our first Meet the Speaker session. And we hope that you guys will register for our event on September 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. The registration links are on our blog, www.nabafinancialliteracy.com. You can also follow our social media pages where we also have the registration links for that as well. So thank you, Brandon, and we'll do this again next Tuesday.
All right.
Bye-bye.